security scare in Washington after a gunman opens fire at a dinner attended by the US president. Secret Service agents stormed the stage at the White House Correspondents' Dinner before bundling Donald Trump out of the room. The suspected gunman caught on camera running towards the ballroom, described as a lone wolf attacker.
A man charged a security checkpoint armed with multiple weapons, and he was taken down by some very brave members of Secret Service, and they acted very quickly. No, it's a dangerous profession, but I don't view it that way. Look, I'm here to do a job.
Buckingham Palace has announced a security review ahead of the King's state visits this week. We'll have the latest from Washington, also tonight. A car bomb explodes outside a police station on the outskirts of Belfast. Dissident Republicans have been blamed, and
an historic performance, 1:59.30. Absolutely incredible. I've never seen anything like that.
History made at the London Marathon as two men become the first to break the 2-hour barrier.
This is ITV News with Gamal Fahnbulleh.
Good evening. Donald Trump was dramatically rushed to safety last night after a gunman tried to storm the ballroom where the president and members of his cabinet were attending a lavish dinner. Shots were fired, but the suspect, named as 31-year-old Cole Thomas Allen, was detained alive. Early investigations suggest the suspect was targeting Mr. Trump and his team. One officer was shot, but his bulletproof vest prevented serious injury. The incident has raised serious questions about the security of the White House Correspondents' Dinner and prompted a review ahead of the King's state visit, which starts tomorrow. Our US correspondent, Dan Rivers, has the latest.
The president was already at his seat when the sound of gunfire threw the evening into chaos. Within seconds, Secret Service officers were rushing him and the First Lady to safety. He appeared to stumble as he was bundled away in the confusion, flanked by heavily armed officers. CCTV at the entrance showed the assailant charging past a security checkpoint, where agents quickly drew their weapons and fired. One officer was shot at close range, but was saved by his bulletproof vest.
Where's he coming from?
Those sheltering nearby recorded the frantic moments officers confirmed the shooting.
Watch out! Blue, blue! It is now crime scene. Secret Service is in custody. Has the person in custody?
Okay.
Other members of the cabinet, including Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth, were rapidly led away from the threat. Hundreds of guests were left sheltering in place as officers surged forward, putting the building in a lockdown. Secretary of State Marco Rubio can be seen here waiting to be evacuated. As more security officers arrived, tables were thrown aside. Here you can make out Health Secretary Robert Kennedy Jr. being escorted out.
Oh my God, that's him.
The president was taken to the safety of the White House, where he spoke of the dramatic events a short time earlier.
But in light of this evening's events, I ask that all Americans recommit with their hearts in resolving our difference peacefully. We have to resolve our differences. I've studied assassinations, and I must tell you, the most impactful people, the people that do the most, you take a look at the people, Abraham Lincoln, I mean, you go through the people that have gone through this, where they got them. But the people that do the most, the people that make the biggest impact, they're the ones that they go after. They don't go after the ones that don't do much because they like it that way. And I hate to say I'm honored by that, but I've done a lot.
It didn't take long for the president to come to the briefing room here in the White House to tell us precisely what happened. He appeared calm and collected, a truly remarkable end to a dramatic evening in Washington, D.C. Inside the venue, hundreds of guests were still in lockdown.
Stay back, stay back, stay back!
As officers secured the entrance of the hotel. The president was the first to post a photo of the assailant, reportedly of Cole Thomas Allen, a 31-year-old from California, who will appear in court on Monday. He was staying at the hotel where guests had remarked on lax security to get into the event. Today, a senior Trump official confirmed the gunman appeared to be intent on targeting members of the government.
It does appear the suspect was targeting members of the administration. I don't want to go beyond that because we don't have specifics yet about particular members of the administration.
But this weekend, America is once again contending with the spectre of political violence in the very same hotel where President Ronald Reagan was shot in 1981. Now, a crime scene as the authorities try to piece together if security should have been tighter around an event with so many members of Trump's administration.
Well, in a moment, we'll hear from our royal editor, Chris Shipp, who's in Washington ahead of the King's state visit. But first to Dan, who's at the White House. Dan, there are some serious questions about the security arrangements at last night's dinner.
There are, yeah. Guests were basically, they only needed a cardboard invite to gain access to the ballroom where Donald Trump and much of his cabinet were. There was no ID check, and you just have to look again at those pictures of the president and vice president being bundled out to see how potentially vulnerable it was. Now, they are stressing that the gunman was interdicted well before he got in there. He is now facing Cole Thomas Allen firearms offences and one count of assaulting a federal officer. He was found with a shotgun, with a handgun and multiple knives, we are told. He is not cooperating, but his family are, and they actually received a sort of manifesto, as the president called it, setting out sort of anti-Christian ideology, as the president said. That manifesto was flagged by his family in Connecticut to the local police, but it appears that that message did not get through to the Secret Service and authorities on the ground in time. So, of course, there will be a wholesale security review, I think, to see what could be done different next time for such a vast venue, but a venue where so many VIPs were present.
Okay, down at the White House, thank you. And to Chris now. Chris, the King's state visit was already high stakes. What impact will last night's events have on it?
Yeah, I mean, it couldn't be much more high stakes now, could it? Yeah, good evening. We've just arrived in Washington, D.C. just a few moments ago, about 24 hours ahead of the King and Queen, and it's my understanding this evening that that visit is still going ahead. What we've been told is throughout the day, or since these events of last night, a security review has been underway between the UK and US sides, and it looks like they're going to make some minor operational amendments to the programme, but all the big stuff, it seems, is still going ahead. In fact, our cameras a short time ago caught these moments on the White House lawn, which on Tuesday is where Donald Trump and the First Lady will have a big ceremonial welcome. Remember, this is the very first state visit of this second Trump administration, but it is, of course, much more than that, given the state of UK-US relations in the last few weeks, particularly since the war in Iran, and all the things that Donald Trump has said about Keir Starmer and Britain's military. And remember, who is it that the military in the UK sign an allegiance to? Well, it's His Majesty the King, of course. And all of these things will no doubt come out through the course of the next 4 or 5 days. And you've got to think about what happened after Donald Trump came to the UK last year on a state visit. Well, that didn't stop him from saying all the things that he said in recent weeks. So the task of the King is to perform a sort of diplomatic miracle, if you like. And all the while, diplomats certainly UK diplomats in London and in Washington will be holding their collective breath, hoping that Mr. Trump will be on his best behaviour.
Chris in Washington, many thanks indeed. An attempted murder investigation is underway in Northern Ireland after a car exploded outside a police station on the outskirts of Belfast. The vehicle was hijacked and loaded with a bomb before a delivery driver was forced to drive it to the station. Dissident Republicans have been blamed for the attack, in which no one was injured. Here's our Northern Ireland reporter, Stuart Robson.
With Dunmurry in darkness, the bright burn of a hijacked car illuminates nearby homes. All within just a few metres of a police station. Fitted with a gas cylinder device, it exploded while police were at the scene. As residents fled their homes, police took 2 babies to safety just as the bomb went off.
We all heard a massive bang, and straight away I looked at my husband and my sister-in-law who was sitting with me, and we all looked at each other and went, "Did you hear that?" And then all of a sudden we thought to ourselves, "Is that a bomb?"
A delivery driver whose car was hijacked in West Belfast, around a mile away from here, was forced to drive the car to the police station just over my shoulder. At around 10 minutes to 11, the car was abandoned, which alerted officers inside to the threat. Less than 24 hours on, police say they believe they know who was responsible.
The actions of those who put people's lives at risk last night are quite obviously in very stark contrast to those of our personnel, who not only prevented any injuries, but in my view, clearly saved lives. Our early working hypothesis is that this may well be the work of the new IRA.
The same group claimed responsibility for an attempted bomb attack on a County Armagh police station just before Easter, when a crude but viable device failed to explode. The overall security threat level in Northern Ireland remains at substantial, meaning an attack is deemed likely. That determination is made by MI5. With 2 police stations targeted in such a short space of time, questions are arising about whether the threat level should again be reconsidered. Stuart Robson, ITV News, Dunmurry.
To some of the day's other news now, and a senior minister has warned the economic impact from the war in Iran could be felt for as long as another year. With tankers still stuck in the Strait of Hormuz, Chief Secretary to the Prime Minister Darren Jones said the cost of things like energy, petrol and flights were likely to stay elevated for many months. A memorial service was held in northern Ukraine early this morning to mark 40 years since the Chernobyl disaster. The catastrophic 1986 blast remains the world's worst nuclear incident, with millions exposed to dangerous levels of radiation. And a goal by Enzo Fernandez has secured Chelsea a spot in the FA Cup final against Manchester City. Chelsea beats Leeds 1-0 just 4 days after head coach Liam Rosnier was sacked. And finally, it was a record-breaking day at the London Marathon, as not one but 2 men became the first to run the distance in under 2 hours in the competition. Kenya's Sebastian Sawe took victory in 1 hour, 59 minutes and 30 seconds. There was a world record too in the women's race, while more people than ever before are thought to have taken part. Saba Chowdhury reports.
From Daddy Pig to dinosaurs, the 46th London Marathon did not disappoint, with the most wicked runners braving the sun, for charity, personal best, or simply to prove they could. And there was no shortage of records being broken. Kenyan runner Sebastian Sawe rewrote the history books, winning in 1 hour, 59 minutes and 30 seconds.
Absolutely incredible. I've never seen anything like that.
The fastest in history and in proper marathon conditions. A milestone moment many are already comparing to this: Roger Bannister's first 4-minute mile in 1954. And in 2019, Eliud Kipchoge broke the 2-hour barrier, but not in a competitive race like this. And Sawe is delighted.
It has been a good race to meet a world record, and I'm happy.
Finishing shortly behind Sawe was Ethiopia's Tigist Asifa, who made back-to-back wins, breaking her own record by 9 seconds. But beyond the elite, there were some personal triumphs too.
Felt like I was dying whilst I was doing it, but yeah, I feel happy now it's done.
A lot of training, a lot of rainy, dark nights, so just, pure emotion coming over the finish line.
These are happy tears, so, yeah.
And now the miles are done, the celebrations are just getting started. Saba Chowdhury, ITV News.
Congratulations to all who ran. They're back at 10. For now, have a good one. Okay.